They say that when you reach the absolute pinnacle of success, the silence of your revenge speaks louder than any words ever could. And at the Academy Awards, Michael B. Jordan didn't just win the Oscar for Best Actor. He casually rewrote the entire narrative of his public life. But while Hollywood was giving him a standing ovation, behind closed doors in the Harvey mansion, a complete emotional meltdown was unfolding. Rumor has it, up until the early hours of the morning, Marjorie Harvey was trapped in a bedroom, frantically consoling her daughter Lori Harvey as she literally cried into her pillow over what the internet is now calling the ultimate fumble of the decade. But here's the kicker. We wouldn't even know about this deeply embarrassing family crisis if the leak came from an outsider. No, the person who reportedly spilled this toxic detail to the internet is none other than Brandy Harvey, Steve Harvey's eldest biological daughter from his first marriage. And according to sources close to the family, Brandy has officially had enough. She is done watching Lori get treated like the golden child, the flawless princess of the media, while she and her biological siblings were left in the shadows of Steve's new life. Think about the sheer layers of public humiliation Lori is dealing with right now. Not only did Michael B. Jordan reportedly send her celebratory phone call straight to voicemail after his historic Oscar win, effectively treating her like an absolute stranger, but her own stepsister is now weaponizing that rejection to air out the family's most private, toxic business. Years of built-up resentment, favoritism, and broken family dynamics are exploding in real time. When you truly pull back the layers of this Hollywood drama, the fact that Michael B. Jordan rejected Lori's attempt to crawl back into his spotlight is just the surface. What is actually unraveling before our eyes is the carefully curated empire of the Harvey family itself. The perfect facade is cracking, and the secrets leaking out are devastating. So, clear your schedule and lock in because we need to walk through every single piece of this puzzle. There is a massive dark undercurrent happening behind the scenes, and it's time to expose the whole story. They dated from late 2020 to June 2022, and by every account this man was completely all in. He wasn't playing the usual Hollywood games or keeping one foot out the door or treating it like a temporary PR stunt. Michael B. Jordan was ready to alter the entire trajectory of his private life for this woman. Think about how guarded Michael has historically been about his personal affairs while climbing the Hollywood ladder. He built a literal fortress around his private life, yet with Lori he tore that fortress down completely. He took her home to his mother, which is an intimate gesture he has reportedly only done twice in his entire life. He didn't just invite her over for a quick dinner, he spent precious Christmas vacations completely embedded with Lori and the entire Harvey clan, playing the role of the devoted future son-in-law. He was shouting his love from the rooftops and hinting in major interviews that Lori was the one while openly stating that marriage was on his mind. He was balancing the massive weight of his production company, his grueling training schedules, and his intense business ventures, all while making sure Lori felt like the center of his universe. Even Steve Harvey couldn't hide how impressed he was, going on public platforms to praise Michael and saying he was Team Lori 1000%. Steve openly admitted back then that Michael treated his daughter like absolute royalty, and that it made him happy to see her being treated like a queen. Michael wasn't just a boyfriend, he was a massive investment in Lori's future, offering her stability and a genuine partnership at the highest level. And then out of absolutely nowhere, Lori ended it and gave a public reason that was wrapped in the classic language of modern female empowerment. She claimed she was just enjoying being single and focusing entirely on herself, and refusing to compromise her peace for anyone else's timeline or expectations. She pushed a philosophy to the media about taking control and making sure you maintain your power and never giving your power away to anybody as the key to being happy. On paper it sounded like a woman taking charge of her destiny, but behind the scenes the rumors tell a completely different story. Word on the street is that Michael didn't just want a girlfriend, he had reached the point where he wanted a life partner, and he reportedly proposed to Lori. He offered her his entire world, his name, and a secure future, but she told him no because she wanted to maintain her status as the untouchable trendsetter. She left him entirely in the dust, and from the photos that circulated immediately after the split, Michael was visibly devastated and heartbroken. His close circle of friends had to literally surround him and protect him from the paparazzi, while he processed the massive pain of being rejected by the woman he wanted to marry. It was a clean, painful break, and that should have been the end of a sad Hollywood romance where two young people simply wanted different things. But what the Harvey family did next is what turned this situation from a sad breakup into a toxic calculated public relations war, because they went on the offensive. Instead of letting Michael heal in private, the Harvey PR machine decided that Lori could never be the villain or look like the person who fumbled a good man. The narrative always has to protect her brand as the ultimate prize, so a deliberate smear campaign had to be manufactured to shift the blame entirely onto Michael. According to massive industry rumors, Lori's mother Marjorie Harvey allegedly recruited her close associate Lisa Ray to publicly push a highly specific and damaging narrative. Suddenly, whispers started flooding the blogs claiming that Michael hadn't been the perfect boyfriend and that he had been secretly cheating on Lori. They fabricated a story claiming that Lori actually wanted to marry him, but discovered the alleged infidelity just days before he was going to propose to her. Lisa Ray went public on television platforms claiming that the media story about Lori not being ready for marriage was a total lie to cover up his bad behavior. She implied that Lori was looking for a meaningful relationship, but found out the truth about him, which was a calculated move to destroy Michael's spotless reputation. Neither Lori nor Marjorie ever stepped up to deny these nasty cheating rumors or issue a single statement protecting the man who had loved them so openly. They just sat back and let the toxic rumors circulate through the internet while Lori began fueling the fire herself through subtle social media moves. She quietly supported the narrative that Michael was a serial cheater who possessed a secret preference for white women, which is a highly dangerous card to play. In Hollywood, playing that specific card against a prominent black leading man is a weapon designed to turn his primary fanbase completely against him. It was a calculated attempt to strip away his community support and ensure Lori walked away blameless, while Michael's career and reputation lay in total ruins. But Michael B. Jordan didn't take the bait and maintained a level of dignity that is almost unheard of in modern celebrity culture by choosing absolute silence. He previously told interviews that he and his family literally laugh about the things written online because they couldn't be further from the truth of his life. He noted that his parents always told him that the public would be absolutely shocked if they actually knew the mundane and focused reality of his daily routine. He admitted that the comments get to him sometimes because he is human, but he told his fans not to let the media tell them how to think. When the Harvey machine dropped that heavy narrative on his head, Michael chose to go completely dark and poured every ounce of his pain into his craft. He locked himself away to prepare for the career-defining roles that would eventually lead him to the absolute peak of cinematic validation and global respect. And look how the tables turned when Michael became the absolute king of Hollywood by winning the Academy Award for Best Actor. At 39 years old, he has achieved a historic legacy and can command whatever astronomical salary he wants, making him completely uncancelable and globally revered. With the entire world chanting Michael's name on Oscar night, Lori Harvey reportedly realized the monumental scale of what she had thrown away. According to industry insiders, she tried to pick up the phone and make a congratulatory call, hoping to bridge the gap and tap into his golden energy. And what did Michael do to the woman who tried to destroy his name after he offered her a wedding ring and a life of security? He didn't pick up the phone, he didn't yell at her, and he didn't gloat. He simply sent her call straight to voicemail and never returned it. After 2 years of taking every single public shot from the Harvey family without responding, that cold silence was the most devastating response he could give. He didn't need to be petty on Instagram or write a shady caption because he let his historic success do all the talking for him. He proved to the entire world that losing Lori was never his loss, it was entirely hers. And now she is left dealing with the consequences. But as fascinating as Michael's silent victory is, the real shockwave is what this situation has triggered inside the walls of the Harvey family itself. The perfect facade is cracking because the news of Lori crying into her pillow didn't come from an outsider, it came from inside the house. The person who reportedly leaked this embarrassing crisis to the blogs is Steve's eldest biological daughter, Brandy Harvey, who has officially decided to expose everything. To understand why Brandy would do this, you have to understand the deep and messy history of Steve's blended household, which is full of resentment. This is not a sudden random act of malice. It is the explosion of decades of built-up anger over systemic favoritism and neglected biological children. Steve Harvey has a total of 7 children, including 4 biological children from his first 2 marriages and 3 stepchildren through his third wife, Marjorie. But according to sources who have watched this family for years, there has always been a glaring and toxic division inside that luxury mansion. There has long been an intense perception that Steve treats Lori as the absolute favorite and the undisputed golden child of the entire family enterprise. Meanwhile, his biological children feel like they have been treated as an afterthought and left in the shadows of his new glamorous life with Marjorie. If you look closely at the public record, the signs of this deep family divide have been hiding in plain sight for many years. Brandy and her twin sister Carly have been noticeably and consistently absent from the lavish family events and holiday gatherings that Marjorie hosts. The public PR answer was always that everyone was simply too busy with their own schedules, but when it happens every single year, it becomes a pattern. It tells you everything you need to know about how Steve's biological daughters feel about being in that highly controlled and Marjorie-dominated environment. Steve has gone on major platforms to fiercely defend Lori, saying he hates it for her when the media attacks her and praising her intelligence. But he rarely uses his massive voice to validate or protect the struggles and achievements of his eldest biological children, who watched him build this new empire. The psychological roots of this deep resentment make complete and heartbreaking sense when you trace Brandy's history back to the very beginning. Go back to the late 1980s and early 1990s when Steve Harvey was completely broke and struggling to survive as an unknown comedian. During those brutal years when he was literally sleeping in his car, his first family was his entire foundation. His first wife Marcia and their young children were the ones who endured the crushing weight of his poverty and supported his dreams. But the exact moment his career finally took off and the Hollywood lights started calling his name, a massive shift occurred in his priorities. Steve began pulling further and further away from his original home to spend his days on production sets and his nights locked inside comedy clubs. Ultimately, he made a definitive choice that his skyrocketing ambition and personal fame mattered far more than the family he had built in the shadows. When he divorced Marcia, the split was absolutely catastrophic for the household and left her entirely alone to pick up the pieces. She was tasked with raising their 13-year-old twin daughters Brandy and Carly along with their tiny 2-year-old son Broderick without a father present. To make matters worse, historical reports suggest that during those initial grueling years, Steve refused to pay adequate child support to his first family. He forced his own flesh and blood to struggle financially, while he was busy building his multi-million-dollar global brand and lifestyle. Think about the intense psychological impact of that painful reality on a young impressionable girl growing up in the public eye. Brandy Harvey had to watch her biological father actively choose wealth and status over the basic well-being of his own children. She watched him walk away from them completely, and then years later she had to sit back and watch him build a sparkling new luxury life with Marjorie. She had to witness her father pour millions of dollars and unconditional public protection into Lori Harvey, who did not even share his biological blood. Lori received the endless attention and validation that Brandy and her siblings never got during their own formative and difficult years. An insider close to the family dynamics described the quiet tragedy by stating that Steve's actions created a deep unspoken dissension among the clan. The source noted that Steve's primary method of dealing with the resulting family tension has never been healthy communication or open conflict resolution. Instead, his coping mechanism has always been to simply throw massive amounts of money at his biological kids to quiet their complaints. He would buy them expensive gifts to smooth things over or completely disappear into another room to smoke a cigar and ignore the screaming elephant. That is not real parenting or leadership, that is simply emotional avoidance powered by a high-limit corporate credit card. So when the dam finally broke after the Academy Awards and Brandy allegedly decided to leak the details of Lori's meltdown, it wasn't random. It was the culmination of decades of suppressed trauma and justified anger from a daughter who felt entirely erased by her father's new life. Brandy watched Lori get propped up as the family's untouchable princess, while her own mother was left to struggle in the shadows of obscurity. She watched Steve publicly fawn over Lori's high-profile relationships, throwing his massive cultural weight behind her brand, while barely acknowledging his first family's milestones. She watched the entire Harvey machine mobilize to construct a nasty false narrative around Michael B. Jordan just to protect Lori's fragile ego. And finally, Brandy watched the universe deliver the ultimate poetic justice on a night that was supposed to be a celebration for Hollywood elite. She saw Lori Harvey falling apart in her bedroom because the man she casually discarded had just become an immortal cinematic king. Michael was now a historic winner who treated Lori like she was completely invisible and didn't owe her a single second of his time. Brandy looked at that pathetic display and decided it was finally time to pull back the heavy curtain and let the public see the truth. She decided that the world needed to see the raw, unedited reality behind the carefully curated and ultra-glossy image of the perfect Harvey family. The leaks didn't stop with just the crying incident, because Brandy reportedly began sharing deeper details about the internal financial dynamics of the household. According to these leaked reports, the tension inside the mansion reached an all-time high during the preparation for the Oscar after-parties. Lori had allegedly demanded an astronomical budget from Steve to secure a wardrobe that would completely outshine every single actress on the red carpet. She wanted to ensure that when Michael saw her, he would instantly regret ever letting the relationship terminate after their intense breakup. Steve reportedly approved the massive expenditure without a second thought, which instantly sparked a furious argument behind closed doors with his biological children. Brandy and her siblings pointed out the blatant hypocrisy of funding a multi-million-dollar PR wardrobe for a stepdaughter while withholding corporate investments. They had been pitching business ventures to their father for years, only to be met with hesitation and corporate red tape from his accountants. The blatant favoritism was no longer just an emotional wound, it was actively impacting their financial growth and ability to build independent legacies. Marjorie reportedly stepped into the argument to defend Lori, claiming that Lori's public brand was a core pillar of the entire Harvey family wealth. She argued that keeping Lori at the top of the pop culture hierarchy was a necessary marketing expense that benefited everyone in the long run. That cold corporate justification was the final straw for Brandy, who realized her father viewed his new family as a business asset. She saw that her biological family was viewed as a financial liability that needed to be managed with occasional checks and forced holiday photo shoots. The realization that their father had completely commodified his affection, based on media relevance, pushed Brandy to take matters into her own hands. She began contacting prominent media bloggers and independent journalists, offering them documented proof of the internal warfare taking place inside the family empire. She exposed how Marjorie allegedly controls every single aspect of Steve's public schedule, ensuring that her children receive top priority at all times. The leaked documents reportedly included calendar schedules where major holiday events were explicitly planned around Lori's modeling gigs and vacation preferences. The biological children were expected to adjust their entire lives to fit into the small windows of time left over by Marjorie's children. When the public began dissecting these leaks, the reaction across social media platforms was a mixture of absolute shock and immediate validation for Brandy. For years, fans had noticed the cold body language between the biological daughters and Marjorie during their rare joint public appearances. The internet commentators quickly began forming sides, with the overwhelming majority of the culture praising Brandy for having the courage to speak out. They pointed out that the Harvey family machine had used its massive wealth to silence critics and paint an image of a harmonious home. But no amount of money could suppress the pain of a daughter who had to watch her father play the role of a doting parent to everyone but his own blood. The narrative surrounding Lori instantly shifted from an independent trendsetter to a spoiled product of extreme parental favoritism and calculated media manipulation. Every single video Lori posted attempting to showcase her luxury lifestyle was immediately flooded with comments asking about her biological stepsisters. The public wanted answers, and the carefully constructed fortress that Marjorie had built around her daughter's brand was beginning to crumble under the pressure. Lori reportedly demanded that Steve use his massive legal team to hunt down the source of the leaks and issue immediate cease and desist orders. She was terrified that the negative press would damage her lucrative brand partnerships and modeling contracts with high-end luxury fashion houses. But Steve found himself completely paralyzed by the situation, because he knew that taking legal action against his own biological daughter would be public suicide. It would force the court systems to unseal old financial records and divorce documents from his first marriage, exposing the dark reality of his past. He knew that the public would not forgive a billionaire father who used high-priced corporate attorneys to silence his own neglected daughter. Marjorie, on the other hand, was pushing for absolute termination of all financial ties to the biological children as a punishment for their betrayal. She viewed Brandy's actions as a direct declaration of war against her children's future, and refused to sit at the same table with them ever again. The household was completely divided, with Steve caught helplessly in the middle of a conflict he had spent 20 years trying to buy his way out of. He was finally realizing that the silence he bought with his credit card was only temporary, and that real resentment never truly goes away. The stage was set for a massive public reckoning, and the timing could not have been worse for the Harvey family enterprise as Michael continued to rise. The structural collapse of the Harvey family enterprise was now happening in real time as Michael B. Jordan's historic Oscar victory continued to dominate the global media landscape. Every single major news outlet and entertainment blog began linking his artistic triumph to the spectacular public downfall of the family that had tried to destroy his character. The public backlash against Lori Harvey reached an absolute fever pitch, with millions of people mocking her online for committing the ultimate cultural blunder of the decade. She had traded a genuine life partner and a future Hollywood king for a temporary single lifestyle, and a collection of fleeting media trends that were now completely losing their value. To make matters worse, the internet began digging deep into the leaked financial documents that Brandy had reportedly provided to the press, exposing a web of corporate corruption and favoritism. Rumors began circulating that a major television network was quietly reconsidering its multi-million-dollar syndication deal with Steve Harvey due to the immense negative publicity surrounding his household. The network executives were reportedly terrified that the brewing family scandal would alienate Steve's primary audience, which consists largely of traditional working-class families who value parental responsibility. A secret corporate probe was allegedly launched to investigate whether Steve had used company funds and production resources to finance Lori's personal luxury ventures and PR campaigns. If these allegations proved to be true, Steve could face massive financial penalties, legal investigations, and a total cancellation of his broadcasting career. The threat of a government tax audit was also looming over the family estate, as the leaked documents suggested that many of Lori's luxury wardrobes had been written off as corporate business expenses. Marjorie Harvey was reportedly frantic behind closed doors, holding emergency meetings with high-priced crisis management teams and public relations experts to save their reputation. They desperately tried to shift the media focus away from Brandy's explosive revelations by planting positive stories about Lori's current relationship with Damson Idris. But the public completely saw through the cheap distraction and refused to let the narrative change because the contrast between Michael's Oscar and Lori's drama was too massive to ignore. Damson Idris himself was reportedly feeling the immense strain of the situation, as he found himself constantly compared to an uncancelable Academy Award winner every time he stepped outside. Sources close to the young actor suggested that he was actively considering stepping away from the relationship entirely to protect his own rising career from the toxic Harvey fallout. He did not want to become another casualty of the Harvey PR machine or a secondary player in a bitter family war that had nothing to do with his own artistic journey. Meanwhile, Steve Harvey was spotted at a high-end luxury resort, looking completely exhausted, aged, and broken by the heavy weight of the continuous household warfare. His close associates claimed that he was deeply hurt by the fact that his eldest biological daughter had gone to such extreme lengths to expose his past mistakes to the world. But when he tried to reach out to Brandy to offer a private apology and another financial settlement, she reportedly refused to take his phone calls or read his text messages. She made it explicitly clear through her representatives that her silence was no longer for sale at any price, and that she wanted absolute accountability instead of another corporate check. She wanted her father to publicly acknowledge the decades of neglect that she and her biological siblings had endured while he was busy playing the role of a perfect stepfather on television. The absolute refusal to negotiate threw the entire Harvey estate into a state of panic, because they realized they had completely lost control of the narrative for the first time in 30 years. Every single strategy they had used in the past to silence critics, protect their brand, and manipulate public opinion was failing miserably against the raw power of a daughter's truth. The carefully constructed fortress of luxury lies was melting away, leaving the family completely exposed to the harsh judgments of a culture that had grown tired of their arrogance. At the exact same time, Michael B. Jordan was signing a massive historic deal with a major movie studio to direct and star in a new multi-million-dollar cinematic franchise. He was moving forward with absolute grace, dignity, and power, completely unbothered by the chaotic storm that was currently tearing his ex-girlfriend's family apart. He proved that the ultimate revenge is not achieved through loud arguments, messy social media posts, or petty public relations campaigns, but through absolute excellence and silent victory. He let the universe handle the people who had tried to destroy his character, while he focused entirely on building an immortal legacy that would outlive them all. The final verdict on this entire Hollywood drama is that a house built on a foundation of favoritism, avoidance, and fragile egos cannot withstand the test of time or truth. Lori Harvey is now left sitting in the ruins of her own calculated choices, watching the man she fumbled conquer the world, while her own stepsister systematically dismantles her family empire. This entire situation has left the entire entertainment industry in a state of absolute shock and has forever changed the way we look at the Harvey family facade. But now I want to hear from you guys, because the internet is completely divided on this massive family war. Do you think Brandy Harvey was completely justified in leaking these embarrassing family secrets to avenge years of neglect? Or did she go way too far by exposing her sister's tears? Do you believe Lori Harvey will ever be able to recover her brand as the ultimate it girl? Or has she permanently ruined her reputation after fumbling an Oscar winner? And what do you think Steve Harvey should do to fix this massive crisis before it completely destroys his multi-million-dollar television career and legacy? Drop your thoughts, theories, and raw opinions in the comments section below, because this conversation is just getting started. If you want to stay completely ahead of the curve and get the absolute truth on the biggest celebrity scandals before anyone else, make sure to hit that like button right now. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on all your notifications so you never miss another breaking investigative report. Thank you so much for locking in with us today. Keep your eyes wide open, stay sharp, and we will see you right back here for the next massive expose.